Right, let's move on to our questions of the week. We'll try and do these fairly quickly. Bill says, Bill, you can ask your own question. I don't know why I'm reading it out.
Oh, I can't remember what I said now. What did I say?
It was clearly a really important topic that was close to your heart, if you can't remember.
Oh, yes, yeah. I think video game instruction manuals should make a comeback.
Should video game...
Manuals, instruction manuals, the booklets that you get with the games, I think they should make a comeback because they disappeared. I've got several reasons for this. But before I go off on a tangent, if I just say that on its own, what do you guys think?
It's nice to have it in the packaging, but I never read a video game manual in my life, and I'm not going to start now. So I don't mind that they're not in there. And every game has a tutorial these days, which they didn't used to have.
There we go. That is what I was waiting for. So, tutorials. We have gone too far down the tutorial route, and it's for people like yourself, John, that didn't read the instruction manuals to begin with, that I have to sit through a 2-hour tutorial because you don't want to read a book. If they bring those back, I don't have tutorials.
I was playing games well before they had tutorials in the games. You just learn it, you work it out. But yes, there should be less hand-holding in games in general, I think. You don't need to be told, press A to jump. Because you could quite easily just press each button on the controller and find out for yourself, you lazy douche.
Exactly. And if you don't know, you can read the instruction manual. If that's what I guess I'm trying to say. If you can... what? Oh, I've been handed this because it's beautiful for my wife. It's all the artwork and stuff like that. I've obviously triggered something in it. We'll obviously carry on this conversation after we've...
It's fine, you know, why put your art books and stuff in with the games, absolutely, or just sell them separately, but I don't think an instruction manual that tells you how to play the game is required these days. Plus, of course, the environmental factor and whatnot. Plus the fact that so many games are digital anyway, and 80% of the games that are sold in the world are digital. There is really no call for a physical game manual these days when you can simply just have an online manual. Even my new washing machine doesn't have a manual. It has a website link on a sticker on it if you want to look at the manual.
Let's talk a little bit about that, about, like you say, online games. And I get that. Obviously, if you're not going to buy a physical release, you can't be expected to get an instruction manual. However, in some genres that works. In other genres, it's a real pain. And here's one that I will explain that is a real pain. Fighting games. You're playing a fighting game for the first time, you don't know the moves, you have to keep pausing, going through a menu, finding the move you want, then learning the input, and then going back, and then if you have it in the book like it did in the olden days, you'd have the manual in front of you, it's already in there, and you don't have to keep pausing the game every 5 minutes.
Can I just say though, Bill, for example, just recalling off the top of my head, Street Fighter 5, you've got a training mode, and it literally puts the moves on the screen for you and teaches you the moves.
It does, but you have to pause it to get there. If you play multiple characters, you have to keep setting that up to do it. And then I'm talking when you have your friends to play. And yes, I know a lot of people play those games online now. But I'm talking about when you have your friends round to play a few games on a brand new beat 'em up, and you're the only one who knows the moves, and everybody else just has to go and pause it and look them up. Yep. If you just had even just one slip of paper with all the moves on, your mates on the couch.
How is it any different to pause the game to read your manual than it is to pause the game and look at the moves on the screen?
Because you wouldn't pause the game to look at the moves on the screen because you'd have it on your lap in between rounds and while it's not your go. But you don't have a choice but to pause mid-game in mid-action to actually look at the moves. You can't pause like in the character select screen to look at them. You can't look at them during rounds. But if you've got that little bit of paper in front of you, you can look at it at any time whether the game is paused or not.
Okay. All right then, I'll take your word for it on that one.
The other one, in regards to this,
go on,
is the price didn't drop in video games, did they? I'm sure these things are expensive.
They are.
But thank you, because my neck was getting.
I'll be down again when Ash comes back.
Yeah, when we were getting instruction manuals, these expensive books that are difficult to print, when they took them away, we still paid the same price, and now we've lost the manual, so we're getting less of a product. Am we not?
Yeah, I guess.
You really don't care because you're never an instruction man. You didn't? Did you not ever read like the book on the way back from like on the bus when you picked up the game and sort of looked at the manual on the way back on the bus?
I think like there might have been something, maybe, but like generally speaking, definitely not. Ash has returned to set the world to rights.
Go on, Ash.
Hi. What were we talking about? I have absolutely no idea. I panicked.
You said modern gamer here, and then you disappeared.
To tell us why we don't need instruction manuals.
Because that's what Google's for. Like, you guys are living in the past, thinking that you have to. Like most people nowadays will game with their phone next to them, or like on a laptop, or like a computer with multiple screens. You're playing a fighting game, and you don't want to because Street Fighter is really bad for it, and so is Dragon Ball. Like, you don't want to go through all these. Just go and look up what character you're playing on your Google.
Yep, right. I knew you were going to say that, Ash. I already prepared for you on this one.
Go on then.
What's the problem with going on Google when you just want to know a little basic thing about the game? Maybe you just want to learn a little mechanic that the game doesn't tell you, or you might have forgotten for the tutorial and you can't go back and play it or whatever. You go on YouTube. You either have to watch a very long video because someone wants to tell you all their stuff about their channel before you get there, or the other thing is, all you want to do is go, what was that? How do I just press this button or get past this one bit? Someone slams loads of spoilers in your face, and all you wanted to do was find out what the button combination was to get past this doorway. You run the risk in that gauntlet of a brand new game you're trying to get past with someone just spoiling everything or what's going to come up because you read slightly the wrong part.
I have a rebuttal for that. The rebuttal for that is that you aren't Googling specifically enough, because if you Google like button prompt to do this in X game or button combination to do this in X game, it's gonna come up with that before it comes up with spoilers. Also, if you're playing a new game early enough to not want to be spoiled for it, you're probably going to be playing the tutorial first anyway. It's not like you've played it and then left it for 3 weeks and then come back to it. And also, just to address something in the chat about how books are old, I do have a Kindle. I use both.
I, as far as it goes, I understand why they went away, but I do feel there's a benefit to them, and I think it should be, all jokes aside, it should be something that is decided on whether the game should have one and whether it would be a better experience for it. I do miss them, and although I've gone in with these subjects with a bit more of a kind of, like you say, a rebuttal to sort of say why I miss them and why it's not so much a straightforward answer. Those things can get in the way of you enjoying a game, and I just think sometimes it would be just so much easier just to go into the box where I should buy everything to be able to play the game like you do a board game or anything else, and have it all in one place without me relying to go and find the answer somewhere outside of my purchase, or be led by the hand by a very long tutorial just because John doesn't want to read the instruction manual, so therefore they had to put the instruction manual into the beginning of the game. It's just one of those things. Besides everything else, like having a very good art book, lore about the characters, storyline lore, and all that kind of stuff. Yes, it is all on the internet, and yes, you can find it if you want. I just kind of miss it when it's all in the package.
XWVP thinks manuals were good once you've bought the game and you were on the car ride home learning how to play the game.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But then I suppose the manuals never really gave you in-depth stuff, did they? But it's kind of the move on, because game manuals will never make a comeback. They just won't. Let's move on to the next one, which is my question. Elder Scrolls is rumoured to become a TV series. What other games deserve the same treatment?
None. Not that they're not good games and they're not good enough. But I don't think video games specifically, especially ones like Elder Scrolls where it's really open and you kind of make the story yourself, but I don't think video games specifically adapt very well to TV shows. They don't particularly adapt very well to films. Let's be honest here. There are two good video game movies that I can think of, and that is the Detective Pikachu movie, which was great, and the that was passable. So I don't think any video game should be adapted to a TV show unless it's something like The Witcher, where it's actually adapted from books, and it tells a completely different story. So that's what I'm going to say on this.
Okay. I would... Go on, you first then, Bill.
Sorry, I was going to say Persona. I think Persona would be a great TV series. I think there's enough story in there. I think there's a lot of it is about relationships and characters and that kind of stuff. And then you've got a cool little, I don't know what you call it. Have you played as Persona, Ash?
Yeah, so I've played a decent chunk of Persona 4.
What do they call it when they go into the fight scenes? The what dimension or what?
It depends on what Persona it is. It's
okay.
Various things. But I mean, Fanata makes a good point that. Fanata says Persona is already a bad TV series, and then Alex has said that the anime is great. I personally think the animes are a bit rushed, and that is another thing that comes from adapting something like Persona, because it's such a big, widespread game. Danganronpa was the same. That felt really rushed as well when they adapted that. Sorry, I'll shut up.
No, I think this is a good point.
Mr. Clamper claims Street Fighter would be good, or any fighting game. Now, when it comes to fighting games, generally speaking, there's not much story, or it's a very short story on the various character arcs you get. But having said that, there has been 3-4 Street Fighter films. There's been a Mortal Kombat film. There's been a Tekken film.
2 Mortal Kombat films. There was 2 Mortal Kombat films.
There's been one Mortal Kombat film, just one.
Bill only recognises one. And there's been quite a few like shorts, like Street Fighter things. And
the Chun-Li Street Fighter movie was awful. So they keep trying and they keep failing about it. So
but I think you could apply, any kung fu movie, any Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan type kind of movie. You could probably put any video game, fighting game template over that and basically do a similar story. So that would work quite simply, I think. Personally, I'd like to see Mass Effect because I'm a sci-fi nerd.
That would be good. I'd be with you on that one. I think that it wouldn't be too hard of a budget either, because it's very much like Star Trek, isn't it? So I'll tell you what else would be a good one.
Yeah.
Just because of how bad it would be that it would be good is Deadly Premonition. I think that would be so janky and awful, and the budget of the game is so bad anyway, that if they actually put that onto a syndicated TV show, I think I'd actually watch that just to see how jank it actually was.
I would not watch that.
9, 8, 7,